Hello, welcome to our viewers on Eurosport International with stage 6 of Tirreno Adriatico. Circuit stage today, 209 kilometers from Porto Sant'Elipidio to Porto Sant'Elipidio. 2 laps of a 90-kilometer circuit followed by 26 kilometers at the end. .49 kilometers to go. 2 minutes 34 seconds the gap between 16 riders out there in the break. Nocentini, Montaguti, Bohm, Martinez, Vicioso, Cunego, Inchausti, Visconti, Sprick, Dumoulin, Cancellara, O'Grady, Impey, Voss, Selvaggi and Finetto. All 16 riders in the break. Very, very strong up there. I can tell you in the last few minutes, Damiano Cunego looking a little bit stronger alongside Dumoulin on the climbs. Plenty of them today, 8 that have been repeated throughout the day. The big one is the one that comes next. 2 more climbs of it, one up the longer side, 6 kilometers, and then later on in the final circuit of 28 kilometers. Once we've crossed the finish line in Porto Sant'Elipidio, we go up the other side, a little steeper, and at 3 kilometers in length. Magnus Backstedt sitting alongside me. It's been an interesting day so far, Magnus, as much in the names and the retirements that we've seen. We'll ring off and remind you of those as we get news of more in just a few minutes' time. But also there's a GC battle playing behind, with Sky looking to keep Chris Froome, who has 20 seconds over Contador and company, in the blue jersey. And of course the stage win, which might stay away out front.
Well, it's certainly looking like you know, the riders out front could potentially stay away for this one, and I think Team Sky will probably be quite happy to leave that one sitting out there. You know, some very, very strong riders in the front group. Damiano Cunego here. We've got Cancellara, O'Grady, and the rest. So it'll be an interesting final, that's for sure. And like I said, the GC battle is certainly going to come. You know, someone like Contador is not going to go to the finish without a battle here.
So we mentioned that 2 riders were a little stronger than the rest. Cunego and Dumoulin have now taken a few hundred meters on those behind. They're on this climb to Sant'Elipidio a Mare, 236 meters above sea level. It's 3 kilometers long and 185 meters in difference. The gradient here is huge. Well, we see these 2 climbing, Cunego and Dumoulin. I can tell you that Andy Schleck is one of those who has abandoned today. Plenty of ridicule for him on the airwaves, on the internet, in the newspapers. I really hope he's not reading them, because that's going to make the possible mental block that he has any worse. But again, not a good day for Andy Schleck. He survived plenty of tough stages this week, but could not survive today. And I can tell you, he also abandoned when the weather was pretty nice indeed. Can't blame it on the rain today for the Luxembourgeois rider, and of course we want to forget for him, but his teammate Fabio Cancellara is up there for Radio Shack, and in the break, however, we've seen him just a few meters behind the 2 leaders. So Schleck in the broom wagon. It's all about what's going on up the front of the race and on course though. Cunego getting rid of that rain cake, means business now. Lampreman by the side of the road. He had a bit of a fine yesterday for eating too early into the race. First 50 kilometers he was taking on some extra fuel.
There you go. Well, I think the race yesterday started with quite a long climb. So obviously he wanted to make sure that he wasn't carrying too much extra stuff with him, and then it might have been a little bit warmer than anticipated and needed some drinks. So it's an expensive drink bottle at I think it used to be around about 100 Swiss francs for a bottle too early or too late. Yeah,
I'm sure he can afford it.
Probably.
I wonder if he got a fee for his DJing at the start of the race as well today. He was playing on the decks a little before he came on.
Yes, yesterday morning it was Coinciato DJing, and Coinciato is actually quite a good DJ.
Is he?
Yeah, absolutely loves his music. I think the man carries something like 15,000 odd songs on his iPod. You know, when I used to ride together with him at Liquigas, he was always into his music, and you know, that always played all sorts.
What sort of stuff does he like?
Anything from the one extreme to the other. It's all there. So yeah, he loves his DJing.
Well, I think the Cannondale boys and the rest of this peloton here could do with a beat or two to help them up the climb, because there's been so much suffering today. By the way, while the British viewers were away in the break, and before International joined us, as we see Lars Bohm suffering himself and dropping back towards the peloton, we saw a couple of Française des Jeux riders being a little naughty, didn't we, Matt?
Well, naughty, I don't know. You know, they certainly looked like they didn't enjoy that steep climb too much, and one of them decided that it was actually better off, he was better off walking up, and the other guy got pushed by one of the spectators. But you know, when your legs go, they go, and if your head goes with it, and it's very easy for that to happen with the kind of weather that we have today. You know, the game is over, and you just want to get yourself to a team car or to the finish or whatever, wherever you can get to as quickly as possible and as easily as possible as well.
A lot of climbing and tough technical descending to be done before we get to the finish. Lots to play out on the road here. There was Lars Bohm going back to the peloton. Oof, and that was something that could have been a heck of a lot worse. One of the motorcycle riders alongside the peloton and almost taking it out.
Well, I think it was trying to overtake and just went a little bit too close to the edge, and the front wheel dropped off the edge of the road. And you know, this is stuff that we see that we're actually quite used to be seen in the likes of Paris-Roubaix and Tour of Flanders when it's wet on the wet cobblestones. The motorbikes do struggle to stay upright.
Well, maximum gradient of 27% at the end of this climb.
Yeah.
Into the final 400 metres of it. There we go. It says 30 there, so even worse perhaps. On the official documents we've been told 27%. It gets worse right until the end. And look at the quality of the road surface as well. It is not great. It's
not fantastic, no, but you know, you can see Koenigo got out of the seat and then back in the seat, out of the seat. He's just struggling for traction here. You know, your instinct is that you want to get up there and you want to get onto, you know, stand up and try and use your bike, but you just can't, because you lose the grip, especially with it being a little bit damp as well.
Well, this is the second time they've gone up this particular ascent today. They've got to come down the other side of it before.
Yeah, you can actually see how he was slipping with his back wheel there when he tried getting out of the seat.
So sit down, the message from Big Maggie. Little Prince is struggling, even though he's in his seat. King of the Mountain, 163.3 kilometres into this 209-kilometre circuit today at Sant'Elipidio a Mare. As I said before the break, for British viewers, I'll say it now for international viewers, not to be confused with Porto Sant'Elipidio, which is just a couple of kilometres away, and our finish time today is the satellite fishing town. A few pushes there. The riders won't particularly want that too much, because they won't want the commissaires to see it.
No, certainly not. But it's one of them things you can't really avoid it if a spectator decides to give you a push, and it's not like you can really avoid it.
Well, the final 300 metres in an average of 20%, as I mentioned, right at the end. It gets worse until you hit the peak. It just continues to get worse, and really horrible climb. As I said before, really early on during the broadcast, that as we're into the final 100 metres of it now, it's the first time it's ever been used in an Italian professional race, and this is the steepest climb that we'll see in any Italian race this year. Certainly the race is organised by Gazzetta anyway. The crowd know how important it is, because there's a heck of a lot of them there. Look at that, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Just like Belgium in a few weeks' time. Listen to the noise here.
We're also looking at the incline. You know, the gears that they have to ride up here are, you know, something that you just about put on your mountain bike, and they're still struggling to get up it. So any normal person who rides a bike, you know, would literally have problems getting up there.
Well, that's the palmarès of Damiano Cunego. He can add another thing to that now. 54 pro victories, 2004 Giro winner. In his third year as a pro, he will now be the king of the mountain in the Tirreno Adriatico 2013. So congratulations to him. He has now secured the green jersey. Just needs to finish the race now.
Let's see what's happening here then in the peloton with this steep climb.
Well, again, that first bit where the road changes, the surface is pretty bad, and of course if you're in the peloton you can't really see what's in front of you. It can be tricky. Here's the back of it with one of the Blanco riders starting to struggle. Chris Froome towards the back there.
No, it's not Froome.
He looks surprised. Sky should have him protected.
Yeah.
Here he is, just behind in that blue jersey. Canada still have riders up. One of the possible winners of the stage, touted by many of those who like to make predictions, was Eros Capecchi, their former rider, is now with Movistar. Strong man. Slow riding. It is attritional. 2 minutes 43 seconds the gap between Dumoulin and Cunego, and the rest of the riders behind. Plenty of riders who are in that 16-man breakaway now filtering back towards the main group. Well, it's carnage out there, as you can see. It is absolutely horrible if you're on there. Plenty of suffering. If you're watching at home and you have an opinion, remember you can get in touch with us on Twitter at Magnus Bagstad or at Rob Hatch TV to give us your predictions, opinions, and anything that you'd like to ask or talk about.
You can watch Sagan here doing almost like a cyclocross type of action, you know, he's zigzagging as well, trying to level out the gradient a little bit. And every time you do it, if you're good bike handler and good cyclocross rider, you can do that little flick with your bike and you actually get almost like a little acceleration from it. All the team cars will have to wait down the bottom here, otherwise I think they'll burn their clutches out.
Lambricard there, holding up everybody else. So it's bottle time. On the way down from Sant'Elpidio a Mare through the Cassette d'Ete, and then up one small ascent as we see the results, as Mirko Selvaggi took the 2 points on offer for third place in that second of 3 King of the Mountains points today, but with 5 points there for Damiano Cunego. The King of the Mountains jersey surely secured for him. 2 minutes 32 the gap. So Sky have been controlling most of the day. Expect them to continue to attempt to do the same. Sees how many riders they have left the front. Back to you on Eurosport, the home of cycling, with stage 6 of Tirreno Adriatico. Gio Visconti is in the break, or attempting to stay out the front of it. We're hearing some reports a little further back, and perhaps more bad news for Vincenzo Nibali, in that he might have lost his 4th teammate of the day, and a very strong one at that. Paolo Tiralongo, rumoured to have abandoned.
That's not good for Nibali, certainly not for the final of this stage here. I mean, tomorrow is a time trial and only 9 kilometers at that, so I know there's a lot of guys kind of thinking, you know, I'll save my legs a little bit for Milan-San Remo and give myself an extra day and a half rest. But you know, Nibali is certainly likely to maybe need Tiralongo coming into the last sort of 20-25k of this stage. Certainly, if he's got any aspirations of dislodging Chris Froome from the leader's jersey.
Well, it's a day in which Tiralongo would have had to be extremely professional, because we all know about his friendship with Alberto Contador, one of his best friends, and of course the only big stage victory before last season had been a gift from Contador in 2011 on the Giro. He's an interesting rider in that last year some may think that he started to get ideas above his station maybe at the Giro, when he was competing with Kreuziger for being the leader when he was in a good position. Do you think that was the case, or he was just trying to take advantage of a situation that might never present itself again?
No, I think it was just taking advantage of the opportunities. You know, there's never really any sort of major rivalry going on in terms of who's the team leader. Most of the time that is preset, everyone knows it, and that's how you go about it. You know, obviously we got the classic sort of case at the moment between you know, Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome, but I think, you know, you need those kind of riders together to perform a good job, and you know, going into the major races with just the one card to play it can be a dangerous game as well, like we saw the year prior when Bradley crashed. So you know, I think this is just, you know, racing is racing, and we do what we do.
So Paolo Tirreno possibly out then. We'll wait to see if we can get confirmation of that, but it is chaos at the back, by the way. The broom wagon is filling up. They might have to send 2 or 3 more out. There are riders going off the back, deciding that the Tirreno Adriatico is over for them. This is what's happening, by the way, up the front. The 16-man breakaway had begun to fracture away. This is Rinaldo Nocentini, who looks as though it is definitely over for him.
Yeah, I think he's going back to the peloton, and you know, that might just be a case of okay, if I stay up here, then, you know, the peloton is going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and staying as close as they are because I'm too dangerous for the general classification. If he comes back into the peloton, the next best placed rider, I think, was at just round about 12.5 minutes on GC, which means, you know, peloton can shut it down, let it go. Sky don't have to ride a single meter on the front because it's no bother to them. 12 minutes, they're unlikely to take that over the next 36 kilometers, and that puts the pressure on the likes of Nibali and Contador to really try and bring this back again, which again will put them in a much more difficult situation coming into the final, having used all their team.
It's certainly not an exact science, is it, today? There are so many possibilities and things that could happen. That's what makes bike racing exciting in general, but certainly with a course like today and with so little in it in terms of time difference. Contador, when he turned up this week, said there's going to be a matter of a handful of seconds separating 5, 6, 7 big guys, and it's turned out to be right.
Yeah, he has turned right. You know, I think that this is what I love about bike racing. He's never an exact science. You can't work out what you know, all the other teams are going to do all the time. And you know, when you're sitting there, it's literally like playing 10 chess balls at 40 miles an hour. You've got to have all these sort of backup plans and so on, and try and read what other teams are thinking and wanting to do.
2 minutes 29 seconds. Of course, not just about the climbing, it's about the descending today. Wet, slippy roads. Fabian Cancellara there. 77th, as you can see, overall, but having won this race already, and with the race profile and, of course, overall design of the race to attract big GC riders changing over the last few years, it's not one that he will be thinking about racing again.
It certainly has changed a lot over the last number of years. I mean, I remember the last couple of times I rode it, it was very much a borderline possibility for a classic rider to hold on to, you know, and compete for the general classification. With the climbs that we've seen, you know, yesterday and the day before as well, certainly, you know, that's no longer a possibility. It's down to the proper GC guys that are outright climbers to race for the overall.
There's some big gradients in this. Just reading one of the many tweets that we've had today. One question from Davino7. I hope I've got that name right. Does a road like this with almost 30% gradient really serve a purpose in a bike race? An interesting question.
You know, we keep on having these sort of coming up. The questions come up every year. Do we need to go up to the highest tops in Europe? You know, on gravel roads. Do we need to have, you know, races being this long? Do they need to be, climbs need to be this steep? You know, do the classics have to have cobblestones? It's bike racing. You know, we got to do things to make it spectacular. We all question, you know, using the Strada Bianca in the Giro a couple of years ago. It turned out to be one of the most spectacular stages ever in a Grand Tour, as far as I'm concerned. You know, the guys who were riding on that day didn't really, okay, it wasn't pleasant, but looking back at it, I can guarantee you that every single guy that finished that stage will look back at it and think, wow, that was awesome. Maybe not right at a given moment when they're sitting on the bike, but I've had days like that when you're thinking, what am I doing? What are we doing racing this? But looking back at it, I wouldn't have changed it. And you know, it makes for great viewing on television as well, which is part of the game.
For me, it adds to the individuality of cycling.
Yeah.
It adds to its unique appeal.
Yeah, and I mean, I would have stood on the start line today, and I would have probably been cursing the organisers for putting this many really steep climbs in and having this kind of a profile. But you know, you've got to suit every rider's got to be able to ride everything. You've got to get yourself to the finish to be to compete, and it's the same thing, you know, with the Tour de France a couple of years ago, riding over the cobblestones. Does that serve a purpose in the Tour de France? I don't know. I think he does, because as far as I'm concerned, he's the most sort of complete bike rider, a rider who can cope with all kinds of surfaces, all kinds of conditions, that should win the Grand Tours. So for me, I don't see a problem with it.
Right, again, that's the excitement, and
yeah.
I think this debate keeps raging, of course, because of social media and the fact that we get to hear, we have almost opinions imposed upon us from the whole peloton, from fans alike, from the likes of you and I as well.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just hear in the commentary box, but you see interacting with people. I think Joan Orach, for me, is the biggest sort of example. The Spanish rider, the guy from Mallorca, who's been riding until very recently for Katusha. Of course, I think he's in the process of retiring right now, is Joan. And he's one of the most vocal of these sort of social media. Okay, let's complain about the course. Let's complain about the course. Let's try and get things changed. And it seems to be a certain cross-section of riders that is really into this.
But I've got to say, the one thing that I don't like is when a course isn't safe.
There's a fine balance to be had.
Yeah, there is a fine balance to be had in certain occasions. If you're going uphill in really steep, steep climbs, yes, I don't like it. Some of these guys that we've seen on our screen here now will love it, but it's not actually that dangerous. Going downhill on cobblestones in the wet might not be the most clever idea in the world. Hence why they changed the Genvevelgem, because we had so many bad crashes on that one. So that's been changed now. Finish lines is something that I think they should need to look at, where they're placed. Is it really necessary to have a corner with 150, 200 meters to go to the finish when you've had a 4K straight leading into it? In my book, no. But again, it's the organisers and the town that pays to have the finish line where it is. So with that, we've got to sort of adapt to it. So, but safety is one aspect that I really, think there's still a lot of work that needs doing, and we can improve that. But touch wood, not too many bad things are happening.
That's good to see. Good to see was a change on the front of the peloton there as well. Cannondale up there alongside Astana, Sky dropping back. Perhaps some changes in the dynamic of this race now. Well,
like we said, Nocentini dropping back from that front group. All of a sudden, that's changed the dynamics of the leader group. Means that they don't really, Sky don't have to ride on the front. But today is certainly a very, very good stage for a rider like Pete Sagan. You could see him go up the climb, that really steep climb just now, and he was right at the very pointy end of that one. So I think it's a possibility of him, winning the stage. So Cannondale obviously going to put the work in then.
Cannondale with Moreno Moser, winner of Strade Bianche just a couple of weeks ago. It was only his second day of racing of the season. 3 men at the front at the minute for Cannondale. Peter Sagan, we expect him to be up there with them. We saw Tiziano Dall'Antonio struggling earlier on. Of course, did start today with a full complement of 8 riders. 2 minutes 20 the gap then. We're going to take our final break before the end of the day. We'll be back with all the finishing action, last 30 Ks, in just a moment's time. Good to see some of the Omega Pharma quick-step riders up there looking to protect Kwiatkowski, the Polish rider who's had a very, very good week himself. He's in the Maglia Bianca, or the white jersey, for the best young rider, just outside of the podium on general classification. What do you make of his performance this week?
No, I think he's ridden incredibly well and very maturely as well. So I think there's a lot more to come from this young man in the future. But it's good to see that Omega Pharma, they're putting their trust in him as well. They're protecting him, they're looking after him well, and why not someone like Kwiatkowski for today's stage being up there? I'm not saying that he's necessarily going for the win, but certainly he should be right up at the pointy end when we get into the finish.
Well, the pointy end, the business end, is approaching. Just over 20 kilometers to go. Dumoulin goes again. The next ascent up the other side of the climb that we've been featuring all day long, the third big crossing of this climb, the crowning of the Sant'Elipidio a Mare, just outside the town of Porto Sant'Elipidio. This time is a little longer, 6 kilometers. And of course, it does get very steep yet again towards the end. They've been down it on the descent, they know what it looks like. They now have to then negotiate the very short, steep, technical descent on the other side with that road surface that's uneven in places. Plenty of problems here. Dumoulin trying to get away, but it's not just a matter of getting yourself meters in front of everybody else. It's the mental part of this as well today.
Yeah, it's a mental game with the weather being the way it is, and you know, he's making some headway against his former breakaway compatriots, I dare to say, at this given point. But there's a long way to go, and with this 6 kilometer climb up towards the very steep bit at the top, it's you want to make sure you hit that one with a little bit of reserve left in your legs.
Well, the average altogether for the 6 kilometers is 2.9%, but that is certainly taken down quite a lot by the very, very shallow start to it. It does just grow and grow and grow. There's one small little peak and a false flat for around 500 meters, a couple of kilometers before the crown of it, and then it's another very short, sharp, steep ascent before that descent we talked about. One little more peak before that after at Inesto, before it's downhill for the last 4 kilometers. The final big climb then, 10 Ks from the finish.
Yeah.
20 seconds Tom Dumoulin has. Going all the time. But how much is he going to pay for this effort? The guys behind lie in wait. Now 6 men, Martinez and Chausi, Impi. Of course, the first 2 of those in the same team, Movistar on the left and right of your screen in the blue and green uniforms. Orange jersey at the front. Always easy to remark. Euskaltel, the team from the Basque Country. Koenigo's still there. Again, just have to wonder how much yesterday and today has taken out of him. Front of the race, Tom Dumoulin of Argos Shimano. Supposed to be a white jersey, that apparently.
Well, I think it was at the start of the race, yeah. Well, maybe not the best colour jersey to ride around when in the spring, but you know.
This is Gio Visconti. Not so long ago we were seeing him in the green, white and red of the Italy national jersey. Of course, Visconti with Sicilian, pardon me, heritage, but from Turin. Of course, many of these southern immigrants who went to work in the factories. Hence the reason Turin grew up as a big industrial powerhouse. Down here in the east of the country, it's more of a rural community. Plenty of farming about. They might be enjoying the rains, but the riders certainly aren't. The blue jersey group starting to get a little more mixed at the front. Cannondale seem to have calmed it down for the time being.
And they have, yeah. It looked like there was Tony Martin sitting on the front there on the peloton, and you know, he's coming down slowly now. A minute and 2 seconds, 19 kilometers to go. I don't think it's going to take much for them to close this gap down. If certainly when they get on to the final inclines of the day, you know, we're looking at a couple of 100 meters, and they will close that.
Once more reminded of who exactly is in this group. There is Damiano Cunego, Miguel Martinez. Glasses are off now, hard to see through them after all the mud and rain that they've taken against them today.
I actually find it harder to see without them. I get used to the spray on the lens, and I prefer to sort of, as long as you've got constant water hitting the lens, I find it easier to just wear the glasses than it is to ride without them. But it means you've got to sit basically in the slipstream and get the spray from the rider in front of you.
Visconti, I think, who's going up the front. Certainly saw him motoring towards that way. It looks as though it's his pedalling start. Trying to make an effort, perhaps, to just force the pace a bit more. Tom Dumoulin, 26 seconds ahead of them.
Yeah, I think, no, it's
actually in Chausti, pardon me.
Yeah.
Glasses perched on the front of the helmet. So this is the climb then. 6.3 kilometers long. Crown just over 10 kilometers before the finish. Ignat in Chausti. Still with the arm warmers on, trying to keep warm. No jacket for him though. Was perched on the edge of his jersey. Once more out of the pedals. The man on the left of your screen in the split screen here, Tom Dumoulin, is the leader of the race on the road as it stands. Certainly this stage, it's around 20 seconds ahead of the group behind him, but it looks as though he's going to bridge the gap here in Chelsea. Interesting.
In Chelsea is certainly going a lot faster than Dumoulin is. It's not going to take long for him to catch up there now.
So Beñat in Chelsea Elorriaga, to give him his full name. Again, very Basque name. Rode for Euskaltel-Euskadi, we previously mentioned before. He decided that he wanted to further his career a bit better by going to a team that had riders from all over the world in Movistar and Unsue's setup. Now looking back, of course, Euskaltel have decided, we mentioned it the other day, that they've gone the same way. There's a real mix there in order to try and change their philosophy. There's the red jersey of Alberto Contador.
He's ready to race. He's taken all his sort of wet weather clothing off. Any gilets has gone out the window as well, and you know, he's down to just short sleeve and shorts, and that's usually a tell sign when the guys are starting to get rid of all these extra bits and pieces. Then you know, they're looking to race.
Well, let's face it, if the attacks don't start to come now on this final big climb, then when is he going to make some time up? Of course, 20 seconds is far too much to try and make up in one 9-kilometre time trial against Chris Froome tomorrow. I
certainly think it is too much, but you never know. It's never over till it's over, and it's a very particular type of time trial, that one tomorrow, reasonably technical, so there's a lot to ride for again, but you know, he still needs to make more headway against Froome here now.
Now 35 seconds developing. Our first group on the road has fractured, and that's because the 7-man group is now dropping back quite quickly to those chasing. Kwiatowski's Omega Pharma Quick-Step at the front. Tony Martin, we've seen him present for Lotto Belisol as well. Of course, they lost Jelle van den Dert today.
I thought it was Jürgen Roelands, wasn't it?
Certainly looked like him, and again, a man who in these sorts of stages should be up there. Plus
Cunego and Impi going at it.
Well, it's non-stop from Cunego.
Yeah, he's had 2 impressive days now. We kind of picked him apart a little bit on the on Saturday, and you know, the way that he's not quite sort of delivered to what the level he should do. But the last 2 days he's been out in the breakaway on his own yesterday, and today he's there again.
I think we had the early Grand Tour success, and of course you can take it for what it was in that era, let's say, as well. And I mean, it was a Grand Tour victory that was achieved as a different rider. He was growing up, he was a different body shape, a different guy. I think, to be fair to him, he's a positive guy. He's now accepted that was a one-off. He is a classics rider. He is a rider who likes and should be liking to win stages. Maybe short stage races, depending upon the profile. But he's a man that, having achieved that win with, again, a different body shape, in a different time, and with a different course, that 2004 Giro, he's moved on. The problem is he's had to suffer along the way with all the pressure.
Yeah, I think coming in as a Grand Tour winner at a very, very early age, it can't be easy to kind of live with that expectation of the Italian public. I think he's coped with it okay for some time, although I would have liked to see a bit more from him, but you know, he's doing it now, so good on him.
– 16 kilometers to go. We're on the final ascent now into Sant-Elpidion.
Yeah, there is another little climb after this one, but last time they came into this particular climb, they came from the opposite direction and turned left into the steep bit. So you know, the descent is still exactly the same as it was last time.
So Cunego to the right of the road. On the right-hand side, as we look at it, is the rider riding the Bianchi bike from Vacances Soleil at Selvaggi. And this is where it's really going to hit them. Look at Martinez, the rider in the orange there, the peloton behind reaching them. Confirmation of what we told you a long, long time ago now, that Mark Cavendish retired. But it looks as though it's all coming together. No gaps are going to stay. And it's all about bonus seconds on the line, maybe, and a big GC fight. We didn't predict it was going to happen, but it could possibly happen. Is that Fabian Cancelaro's off his bike?
No, I think they'll stay in the Volta. looks like Stein de Volder. But that just shows that you miss a gear, or you get a little bit of a wheel slippage going, all of a sudden you stand still, and you can't start again from in this kind of an incline. You need to have that little bit of momentum.
Tom Dumoulin climbing. He was at the front by around 30 or 40 seconds a minute ago. Those behind have quickly caught on him. The momentum of the peloton, the fact that those guys out front really have blown up now. And it's all about looking for Sky jerseys, Saxo Bank jerseys, perhaps an Astana jersey or two, or if it's just about stage wins, then Cannondale have two big candidates as well.
Yeah, they certainly do, but are we going to see an attack from any of the GC riders? We've got 100 metres to the top here now. If they're going to go, now's the time to do it.
In Chelsea, 75 metres from the top of this climb. And as you say, now is the time to do it. Nothing at the moment. After all the suffering today of staying together, perhaps they're looking at the descent. Certainly as far as Nibali is concerned, you could understand he would attack on the way down, but Contador should have gone by now.
Well, even so, you need to get a little bit of a gap opened up before you start to descend. Otherwise, it's too easy to for the other riders to follow you.
He's suffering as well, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, these particularly very steep climbs, you have one pace, and that's kind of what you go up at. Here we go again. You see riders now struggling to kind of get going again after having stopped.
It's that left turn, and then it's crowning. And look at the people on the road. The rain has started to come down harder in the last half an hour since we were here again. Look for Contador though, and he's certainly not at the front.
I think the one that went up that one, the best was actually Peter Sagan.
Now that's interesting. Very, very interesting, because if he's got past that, then now surely he puts himself, if he's still got plenty in reserve for the sprint, which you'd expect him to do, in prime position. Binyat Inchausti was across at first. Still attempting to gain some more time, but look at the rain now. Really, really coming down hard. Extra word of caution here.
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of interesting corners coming on this descent through a town, and you want to make sure that you're paying attention there. Nibali's having a go on the way down.
As you'd expect, Vincenzo Nibali looks behind. Who's
Chris
there?
Horner.
Chris Horner behind him. Well, he was up here. He was leading until the final day. Remember last year? Mountain sprint taken there.
Sammy Sanchez was up there as well. It's one of the corners that you need to pay attention to. You can see Nibali's really having to go around there very gingerly indeed, using every millimetre of the road.
It's not in the best state. 2012 winner of this race, of course. 26 professional victories in his career. This year, it's all about the Giro d'Italia for him.
Here comes Sammy Sanchez, another very good, strong descender as well. He might be having an eye on the stage for him, because Sammy Sanchez is quite a fast finisher for such a good climber.
It's interesting we mentioned the Giro as well, because Samuel Sanchez says he's riding the Giro this year. He is going to be one of the men attempting to make the podium again. It's been a while since we've had him in Italy. Certainly welcome back, I'm sure, because Euskaltel always light up the Giro with one or two big rides in the mountains. Back with the leader in Chausti for the moment. It's that balance again on descent that we see time and time again, depending on how your handling skills are, how you tackle it mentally, how tired you are. It's very, very interesting. It's that balance of staying upright, but of course making sure you have the time. Nibali here is going like a train.
I was going to say, watch the difference in cornering speed on between Nibali and Inchausti. Nibali's coming through there and straight away on the power, looking around, having a check who's with him. There he goes, Sanchez.
Looking for Chris Froome as well. The difference is 20 seconds between Nibali and Chris Froome, and haven't seen that blue jersey on show for a while.
No, and I'm not actually sure of how strong Chris Froome's descending skills are, but I doubt they're of the same kind of level as Vincenzo Nibali's, and Nibali's also quite happy to take the risks. You've seen him, do a couple of what I call NBFs, nothing but faces in the past. Coming through. There's one in Lombardy a couple of years ago when he came in and the front wheel disappeared, and they literally just landed on his flat on his belly.
Well, that is a race when if it's raining, there is plenty of a risk to be taken. Burrito Rodriguez, remember, got ahead at just the right time, didn't have to take those risks really last year. Here's Nibali then, with people catching up behind. There's Peter Sagan. Again, you said he didn't look too strong on certain days here. He says his condition's not at the top, and he's looking absolutely brilliant.
I think you're looking at today's stage winner there.
Well, certainly if he stays with them, there's no contest, is there?
No, I don't think you'll ride him off his will. If he's in a position there now where he can see that, you know, we're looking at a stage win, got a nice little gap going back to the rest of the group. Obviously, they will be working with everything they have to bring these guys back. You've got Contador in there, you've got Froome in there. You've got Sant'Ambrogio there as well. Kreuziger is there. Well, hopefully he'll be there to help Contador out. So those guys need to get back on, and the panic button will have hit for the more part of those riders. So
a few hundred metres separate them at the minute.
But Sagan in this position, sit on the wheel, let Nibali and Sanchez do all the work. He's not bothered whether these guys come back or not. He's just getting a nice cruisy fit sort of ride here now. If they drag him into the finish, he'll win it with 1 foot in the bottle cage.
Trying to look down to find those red and blue jerseys, respectively, of Contador and Froome. At the minute, they're not in the picture, not even panning down. Now we look back. This is Contador.
And where is Froome? Froome is not here.
That is the question.
He's not there.
He is not there.
He might be in the group just ahead, though, because we've got Sagan and them up just around the corner. There's one group they're just being caught here now. Is Chris Froome in that group?
Certainly can't see any Sky Riders.
I don't think he is.
And that tells you, perhaps gives you the answer about Froome's descending, maybe. Something to improve. We've seen so many positive things from him over the past couple of years. There's got to be something to pick away. Some sort of weakness.
Look at Sagan, though, the way he's just sitting there, just turning that gear over.
Well, if Peter Sagan does manage to take the win today, as we see Contador's jersey in there again, no Sky shirts whatsoever. Nothing for Chris Froome, no teammates. They're obviously marshalling him wherever he is behind, and we don't even have a camera on him. It's Contador now leading them up, and this Tirreno could be about to change big style. Yeah,
definitely. Contador will obviously need to try and get back onto Nibali, because they are on the same time in the general classification, so he needs to bridge that gap. And obviously after that, it's a question of who takes the bonus seconds. But where is Chris Froome?
Well, I had a conversation on the way to the commentary box today with several cycling fans talking about the stage that was going to happen and what we were perhaps going to see. And a lot of people were saying, well, come on, we know we've seen Team Sky control this, control that, it's the way they ride, no problem for them. I said, well, hang on, there's so many ups and downs here today that there are more variables than they're used to, a lot more variables, and we're perhaps seeing how teams can finally break them. Looking at the front of the race at the minute.
Just trying to pick out if we can see Chris Froome. There's a Sky team car at least.
Tom Dumoulin's there. Now, there we go.
There's Chris Froome with, is that Sergio Henao he's got with him?
I imagine it's either Henao or Uran. Certainly can't imagine it being anybody else as we look to Cunego.
It's that Kwiatkowski up there in that group.
It's all fractured out. This is the front of the race as far as the stage concerned. It is Vincenzo Nibali and Peter Sagan. Nibali and Sagan, it's not a bad partnership if they stay together. Certainly there's benefit for both of them. Sagan will take the stage win. I'll ride for you and with you. And you can go into the blue jersey perhaps, or at least put yourself in a perfect position for tomorrow. Yeah,
certainly, and they were teammates last year as well, so you know, and they were actually in a position where last year into Chieti, Sagan rode Nibali down and beat him in the sprint to the finish. But these guys will know exactly what each other's sort of riding capabilities are, and there'll probably be some sort of a couple of nice little words being had as well as to how we're going to play this out.
Well, that was interesting because after that Chieti stage last year, there was so much aggro in the paper the day after, and the Italian press did not like it that Sagan had done that to him, of course, even though that Sagan himself is a bit of a darling of the Italian press because he's grown up in an Italian team. Now, looking back, it's a group here that has Spaniards with Sanchez and Contador. But again, going back to that debate at the front, I'm sure they can put their differences or whatever differences there were aside for a little ride to the finish here.
I think the differences were made in the papers last year, whereas you know, between the two of them there was never really any problems. Purito's trying to make his way up to Sagan and Nibali, and on these kind of climbs he is incredible.
Well, if Contador stays behind, Froome stays behind, whatever happens here, Purito will make time up on GC and improve his placing, improve his points. Of course, he was the UCI World Tour winner last year with his win in Lombardia, pipping Bradley Wiggins to the post.
Yeah, and he's started today's stage at 55 seconds on the general classification, so he's not a million miles out. Although there is a time trial tomorrow which does not play into his kind of riding capabilities at all.
No, but with the calibre of GC riders, yeah, I'm sure a podium certainly would be a massively positive result for him. Of course, I think Chieti would have been the stage that he targeted all week. That would have been his primary objective, without doubt. I think as soon as we looked at the fact that Chieti was included, as it most normally is on this race, the first name that springs to mind is Purito.
Yeah,
now,
definitely.
Nibali's gone again, a little dot at the top here. Of course, on the descent again, I'm sure he will try to distance himself, but it's not as steep and not as technical this time.
No, definitely not. It would be nice to see, though, what the difference is back to Chris Froome in terms of time.
It would be good if our motorbikes could get the GPS on that. At the moment, we're with the group with Koenigsegg. Nibali then, working hard to get ahead.
It's a big gap going back there now.
So Nibali, out of nowhere, when plenty were saying that yesterday it was done and dusted, might be about to put himself in a perfect position to take Tirreno for the second time in 2 years. Now Contador looks like he might have been slipping off the back of that little group.
Oh, he's hurting. He's definitely worked hard over the last couple of kilometres, but looking at Nibali's now riding style now, he's just there really to put the hammer down to get as much time as he can into this man here on the general classification. And at the moment, I think we're looking at the better part of 30-40 seconds.
Well, Froome isolated at the moment. Did have one teammate with him, but has gone out in front. 10 Pro victories, as you can see, won his first stage race earlier on this season in Oman. Looking so good again this week. Whatever happens, I'm sure it is a learning experience, and perhaps being taken out of the blue jersey here, necessary evil in his development as a GC rider.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, although I think he's pretty far developed in the terms of general classification riding anyway, but you know, it's one of them things where maybe it's addressed a situation where, you know, he needs to improve on his descending skills a little bit compared to someone like Nibali, because we know that Nibali, given an opportunity, he will have a go on a decent and in a position where most people don't like him to actually attack. But, you know, the road is there. Any kind of inclination on the road, whether it's uphill or downhill, have a go on it. If you fancy your chances, then why not?
Well, when Contador arrived this week as the pre-designated favourite by the Italian press, he was saying, watch out for Chris Froome. Vincenzo Nibali played his chances down a little bit this week, saying, well, making big reference to the calibre of riders that were there, the more rounded riders, the better climbers than he was. Of course, thinking that Adriatico was going to be the big deciding stage.
Here we go, that little group. Sammy Sanchez, you had Chris Horner in there, Sant'Ambrogio was there, and then Contador.
Lotto rider is Jürgen Rollens.
Yes, Cadel Revans, and there is Chris Froome getting back onto that group now, but how far off the back are they? 7.6 kilometres to go.
Hard work from Chris Froome then. He's certainly putting the effort in. Isolated a little, obviously decided that whichever it was, Henao or Uran that was with him, wasn't able to keep his pace or do anything else for him.
Very technical descent, this one.
Interesting. Certainly in the race manual, the descent that they signalled out was the last one, but that certainly didn't look easy.
No, certainly not. And you know, cornering on these tight corners when it's so wet, you kind of get a point here when you're dipping down into the hairpin turn where you literally the weight comes off your tires a little bit, and that point is so easy to slip. If you're touching your brakes there, then it's so easy to just end up on your backside.
Now then, first bit of timing news for quite a while. 6.8 Ks to go, and that is big news for Vincenzo Nibali. 22 seconds back to Contador's group at the minute. God knows where Chris Froome is.
Well, I'd say he's a further sort of 15-20 seconds off the back of that, probably.
At the moment then, it's Vincenzo Nibali with some bonus seconds for coming at least 1, 2 or 3. Imagine that Sagan's going to get the 10 for coming first. Then he's certainly going to be in a very, very strong position. At the minute, the difference
Froome is at
is
51 seconds.
There you go.
That's going to be a tall order for tomorrow's time trial to bring that back on a rider like Nibali. Nibali is not asking any questions in terms of help. He's just driving it as hard as he can.
Riding for a prize that perhaps he didn't feel would be a great opportunity for him at the start of the day. I'm sure he thought there was a chance, but not a big one as this. This is a real result for him as it stands.
Well, this stage is proving a lot more decisive than what we all expected. I think obviously it's a tough stage, but no one was really expecting this kind of an outcome, I reckon.
Well, we're more or less all flat now to the finish. Slight descent until we get 4 kilometres to go. Then it is on the flat. Nothing too taxing whatsoever, so expect Sagan to take the stage if it stays like this. Contador at the minute working hard with the likes of Horner and Samuel Sanchez.
Yeah.
Sant'Ambrogio with them as well for Vini Fantini.
Sanchez looks quite happy to take the turns as well with Contador there in that group.
Well, of course, they're two riders that know each other very, very well as well. Good friends off the bike. Both Spanish riders for Spanish teams. 32 seconds. That gap is growing, though. The gap to Froome as well, up to almost a minute now.
Yeah, 55 seconds. That's, you know, they're certainly taking their turns on the front here. Nibali is riding very, very strong, and has got the help from Sagan, who, you know, he's just looking for a stage win here today.
Bundesliga big guns in a fascinating clash. Leverkusen remain the only team to have beaten the Bavarians this season. Munich will do everything to avenge that score, but the factory squad are chasing European qualification, and they relish doing the double over the champions in waiting. Eurosport 2 is at the heart of the action, with exclusive expert analysis and reactions. Bundesliga Day 26, Bayer Leverkusen, Bayern Munich, Saturday at 1800, live on Eurosport 2.
After the qualifying events around the globe, the Players' Tour Championship reaches a climax in Ireland, where a little luck can land a pot of gold. Players' Tour Championship finals from the 12th to the 17th of March, live on Eurosport and Eurosport 2.
7 kilometres to go. You're looking at possibly the winner of stage 6, Peter Sagan, alongside the man who should be going into the blue jersey, barring any comebacks by the groups behind. Nibali is with him, and of course we're looking at the group that is following. Cadel Evans, former winner of this race, alongside Chris Froome, 56 seconds behind here, 57 now, it keeps growing. The only changes that we're seeing at the minute are positive in favour of these three guys. Purito Rodriguez, by the way, making up the three-man leading group. Yeah.
No, they're riding very strong, and you know, Chris Froome, he really needs to get himself on the front of that group, and he's got to sacrifice everything that he's got at this point. 4 kilometres to go. There's nothing to wait for.
Well, one little subplot that we sort of touched on a little earlier on that's becoming clearer as the kilometres and metres go by. Certainly it's the least important of the three up there in the front, but Purito Rodriguez is riding himself onto the podium.
Yeah, he's certainly getting very close to it.
We have Sagan for the stage win, Nibali going into blue, but yet there's something else going to happen there. 50-odd seconds behind at the start of the day.
Yeah.
This is the chasing group with Contador and Sanchez. Horner with his style with the arms wide on the bars. Contador again suffering and struggling, not looking at his best. There's Froome, by the way, in the Team Sky rain cape, just in front of the Blanco rider Bauke Mollema. Yes. That is Wout Poels.
But Chris Froome, he can't sit on the back there of that group. If he's got any energy left, which, you know, you would hope that he has. He needs to get himself on the front and not ask any questions. Just drive it as hard as he can to limit his losses to these three, if he's got any aspirations of bringing that back in the time trial tomorrow. Obviously, he's got a 20-second buffer on Nibali before the stage, but Nibali will also get a couple of bonus seconds.
Sagan knows what his prize is. Working hard here, in perfect unison, all three of them, hence the reason the gap has been growing quite crazily. Contador alongside Sanchez, Sant'Ambrogio, Chris Horner. .38 seconds, 2.7 kilometers to go. It's all flat, and Magnus Bagstad, it's all pretty much decided. Certainly barring anything crazy happen.
Barring anything crazy happen, but it's a bike race, so crazy things tend to happen. So, I mean, if you look at it at right speed, then Sagan should really not have a problem in winning this one. But you never know with Nibali, and you know, Purito as well. He's not slow by any means, but you know, Sagan is winning sprints against the likes of Mark Cavendish. Against two climbers, it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
I was going to say, before we get to the line, what a week it's been for Sagan anyway, despite the fact he's not been at his best. He's shown the real two ends of the full gamma range of his qualities and capabilities this week. Of course, beating the very best, the very thick-legged, thick-set sprinters such as Cavendish and Greipel, the two fastest men in the world. Sagan having something to say about, of course, that now.
Obviously.
But also winning stages like this that Greipel and Cavendish can't even dream about doing.
No, I mean, this guy has got such an amazing spectre of talent, and you know, the sort of possibilities of stage wins are endless for this man. I just hope that he continues doing what he's doing, rather than trying to sort of follow what everyone thinks they should do and change into being a Grand Tour contender, which I think will ruin everything for him and for me as well. I love watching the man do what he does.
We had that conversation as well last week, and yeah, it's a great reason that people watch and tune in to watch cycling at the minute.
Yeah.
He is a superstar.
Yeah.
So 39 seconds, the gap still continuing to grow. And Nibali at the minute is building himself a nice little buffer ahead of the rest of the field. Chris Froome could be almost out of this going into tomorrow.
Yeah, he's certainly closing down on the second group there with Contador and Sammy Sanchez. You know, that one is getting himself back a little bit closer too. So there's still a possibility of playing for podium, that's for sure. But you know, the overall, I think you're looking at the winner coming here in turquoise colours.
Well, we saw him last year in conversation about what's going to happen here. Inside 1 kilometre now, a bit of politics being played out there, communication. It's all important, and of course Nibali has to be a bit of a gentleman about this, having got a very good lead, or does he, Magnus?
Well, Nibali at this point in time, I would have thought he's not going to ask any questions. You know, I was expecting him to really just drive it into the finish line, because it's all about the GC for him.
It certainly is, with 5 3/4 hours almost in the saddle on a wet, rainy, horrible day in the east of Italy, but it has been beautiful as far as the cycling has been concerned. The two groups perhaps could be coming together as far as we get to the line. They're the two groups behind, of course. Inside 200 metres now, it's Sagan who is opening this one up and looking to try and drag them on even more. Expect Sagan to be taking the win here, ahead of Nibali, who wants the bonus seconds, I think, as well. Sagan can raise his arms. Nibali and Rodriguez, I think, already have preordained what was going to happen there. Nibali wanting those bonus seconds, Rodriguez putting himself up onto the podium. A perfect outcome for everybody, and another highly impressive win for Peter Sagan. In the meantime, though, there is still racing to be done behind. Contador, look at that counter on the bottom left-hand side of your screens. Nibali already is in the blue jersey. Maglia azzurra for him, as we see Sant'Ambrogio sprinting for every second possible.
Yeah, it's important for Sant'Ambrogio as well to keep away from this chasing group, get a little bit of a time split, because we've got to take the Sant'Ambrogio time here. He's coming over the line at 43 seconds.
And then Froome is going to come in a couple of seconds back further.
48, yeah.
Chris Froome then had 20 seconds of a gap on both Contador and Nibali today. Nibali will now be in the lead, we know that much. Cunego has taken the green jersey, that's been decided as well today. The points jersey as well to be decided. We expect Contador to be up there and thereabouts as far as that's concerned. So riders still coming in here, just trying to gather all the permutations of what's gone on today, because we have had a heck of a lot happen out there. And Magnus, a stage to remember on Tirreno Adriatico.
I certainly think it has been a very interesting stage indeed. I think Chris Froome has actually held on to onto the second place overall, with Contador only being a couple of seconds ahead of him across the finish line. So as far as I can work out, you got Nibali in the lead, and then Chris Froome second place ahead of then what would be Contador in my book.
Well, if that is confirmed, once the mathematics have been done by all the boffins sitting
let them
with the
work
computers,
that out.
then that means that Rodriguez would most likely be up there in 4th or 5th. Good ride for him, of course. Another Cannondale rider coming in. Of course, we called either Sagan or Moser, depending on what happened with things coming together for them today. Cannondale, of course, looking to get in quickly. Let's look to get on ourselves now with the race leader, the man who's in the blue jersey.
Very hard day, you must be very pleased.
È stata sì una giornata molto dura, molto difficile, con tante salite, con strappi molto duri. Oggi sicuramente tanti corridori erano molto stanchi, però ho avuto un grande supporto dalla mia squadra che mi è stato sempre vicino. Sono molto contento, questo risultato è stato importante, però domani c'è ancora una tappa molto dura.
But of course, tomorrow there's going to be a very, very difficult finish. So keeping his head down, Vincenzo Nibali. That thick Sicilian accent of his.
Yeah.
And very, very happy with his work of his team today. Well, one stage to go, as Vincenzo Nibali said. It's an individual time trial, 9.2 kilometers along the course that we now usually see. It's going to be on at 1500 Central European time. If you're watching in the United Kingdom or the Republic of Ireland, that will be 1 hour earlier at 2 p.m. local time. 7th and final stage then, here on Eurosport. So the sprint again that saw Sagan, arms aloft. He shows he's the strong man. He is the man of the moment, certainly in the last 12 months or so. We talk all about Cavendish and Greipel for their strength in the sprint, but this man might not win as many of the bunch big kicks as them. He shows he can beat them, he's shown that this week, but he's also shown that he is a very, very special talent. Remember, 22 years of age.
Yeah, there's so much more to come from this man, that's for sure.
Super Sagan takes the victory yet again. Another special celebration. He just gets cockier and cockier, but we don't mind it. He deserves it. He's that good. And this is how he won today. 2 seconds ahead of Nibali and Joaquim Rodriguez Oliver. Sant'Ambrogio 4th, Samu Sanchez in 5th, Horner, Contador, Roland, who's soft up there. Some big, big legs from him today, with Simon Gesca in there in 10th place. Good stuff from Victor, showing that he's getting back to some form.
Yeah, that's an impressive ride by Toro Husov to get himself over all those climbs today and being right up there. That's very encouraging to see from the big man himself.
Well, they will be happy in Norway going into the classics. This is how the overall standings look then. Nibali, Froome, Rodriguez onto the podium. The mathematicians have done their stuff, and they've decided that he is 9 seconds ahead of Contador and Kwiatkowski.
The Eurocup's heading for the quarters. 4 massive ties, home and away, with battle-hardened clubs that have proved their right to play, up to now. But this is a different level. The intensity's cranked up. The pressure's going to show, and something's going